individually, to help you to either avoid these things in your marriage or in your relationships, or if it has already started happening to you, to help you to know how to deal with it, right? That's what these sessions are about. And today in particular, we are dealing, I think Celeste forgot, lack of attention um and infidelity. But you know, it just kind of so happened that the two kind of intertwine. um you know, and what I'm going to share, this will be the last two, well, this session and last week will be the last on this particular topic. But I want to share something. Maybe I'll start it at the end of this session and definitely continue next week, that I think is going to help a lot of people, a lot of married couples, and help them to see love from a different point of view, so to speak, to understand um, there's an aspect of love that, you know, couples try to ignore because it's the harder thing. It's hard, may not be always the easiest thing to do, but it is one of the things that help you to have a successful marriage or relationship if you are courting or if you're in a relationship with someone, right? So ladies, if you can at this moment take some time and just share the link with someone. You don't have to be married. Listen, the people who benefit from this the most are people who are not married yet and they're heading that way. um you know, so you get a heads up of what not to do, um or how to fix certain issues before you even get into that into a situation. And for those of you who are married, definitely you're going to gain a lot of wisdom and knowledge from today's session, right? And so, is there anybody new on the call? I normally like to see if there are any new persons on. It would be really nice to say hello to you. If you are new, you could just type in the comments, say yes, I am new. Um, it's good. It's always good knowing that I'm speaking, sharing with somebody who's perhaps hearing me for the first time, you know, and hope that I could be a blessing. So I'm not seeing anybody new. Okay. All right. So ladies, we are going to start. I know last week somebody recapped. I'm going to ask you all again because I like to know if you all are listening. Since nobody's new, it means you all are here and you all know. I want to hear the 5 from, let's say, maybe 6. I know 6 might be hard because 6 was one I stuck in, right? Let me hear what were the 5 things top things that cause contention in a marriage and can eventually cause your marriage to end in divorce. Let me hear. You could unmute your mic and say. The first person to unmute their mic, you just tell me 2. The top 2. This is easy. If you were on the last session, this is easy pickings. Somebody unmute your mic and tell me what's the top 2 things.
Money and sex.
Money and sex. Nice job. Yes, that is correct. And number 3 and number 4. Who willing to go there? Number 3 and number 4.
I think it's communication and infidelity.
Communication and infidelity. Not infidelity, lack of attention and time. Lack of attention, affection, that kind of thing. That was 3 and 4. And 5 and 6. 5 was infidelity. And 6 was one that I added, which was unmet expectations. And then there were a couple more: family interference, in-laws getting involved, and character flaws that were ignored before the marriage. Things like addictions, crime, person always cussing you out and you think it will get better. Those things don't get better when you get married, they get worse, right? So those were the top, let's say, 7 things. And so today what we are dealing with is infidelity and a lack of attention and time, and they kind of go hand in hand. I'm going to start with infidelity because the other part of it, the lack of attention and time, sort of ties in with what I want to talk about next week, right? To end it, right? So, ladies, anybody on the call that is married has ever dealt with infidelity in a past relationship, maybe a present relationship, or perhaps you are married and you are now divorced because of infidelity, or you might still be in the marriage. But I just want to know if there's anybody on the call who has had to deal with unfaithfulness in a partner in some way. Okay, I've seen hands going up. Wow. So that's a few people. Wow. Okay, I've seen hands. Hands are swiping hands. Okay. So a few people, well, have had to deal with infidelity in a relationship, in a marriage, could be now, could be in the past, right? And so what I'm going to cover in terms of infidelity today is the 4 things that you neglect in a marriage. Now, it could be in a dating relationship too, but you all know my stance where intimacy is concerned before marriage. I don't believe anybody should be having sex before marriage, right? Um, but it happens, and even though you may not be having sex with your partner in your relationship while courting, the person can still go and cheat on you. And there is such a thing, guys, as emotional affairs. You could be involved with somebody emotionally, in love with them, and actually never even see them. This could all happen via WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? Or yes, you might be seeing the person, but there's a strong emotional connection, where you even feel more connected to that person than your partner, than your spouse, right? So first, I'm going to start with the thing. First thing first, I'm going to start with the things that you might be lacking or neglecting. I wouldn't say lacking, but neglecting in your relationship that might lead to infidelity. And then also signs that you could look for that your husband, well, in this case, we only have women on this call, that your husband may be going down that road. Doesn't mean that he might be full into a relationship yet, but there's signs that you could tell in a marriage and in a relationship, things that you should not ignore, that I want to make you all aware of tonight, right? And the reason for this is that you could stop it. So you could ask questions, right? And we'll see as we go along how that could go. First things first, ladies, let me tell you on something, right? This is the first and very important thing. Not because you get married, it means that you stop being attracted to other people, or that you may not be, let's say, be working closely with somebody and form some sort of attachment, not intentionally, but just by spending a lot of time with someone. So you're either married or you're in a relationship, and somebody comes along that is charming you, that you all seem to be getting along great. The person is complimenting you, bringing things for you, like, the whole, what is called it, the whole 9 yards? Yeah, the whole 9 yards or 10 yards, whatever. You know what I mean, right? And you're married or in a relationship, you love your husband, you love your boyfriend, you don't have any intentions of cheating on them. That is not your desire in your heart. But this person is there and they're coming at you and they're coming at you, they're coming at you, right? So what is very important in a marriage and in a relationship, dating relationship as well, is that you should have boundaries when it comes to the opposite sex, right, ladies? You cannot get married and now be naive, right? Some of y'all, before you were married, you you have your husband and your boyfriend in check. Now, being in check, I don't mean controlling them, but you know what, you're smart. You're out there looking out. You know what's going on. When a smallie come and trying to pull up on him and give him little looks and thing, you're making it out, and you're like, what's going on here and stuff. When you get married, that does not stop. I don't know, ladies, if you all realize, maybe some of you all know, might be on the call, a ring on a man's finger don't stop no woman. No, hardly any woman today, if a man say, well, I'm married, she'll say, oh, shucks, well, okay, that's the end of my flirting. No, some of them is no, they flirting. No, married, well, woo, look, I have a little something to conquer here, right? So not because your husband is married and he have a ring and he's telling his co-workers or whoever that he's right. Yeah, no, sir, they're running him down. That creates some kind of excitement. And for some women, they don't want no long-term commitment. They want a little fling. And the married man is the perfect one to do that with, right? Because they know he ain't leaving his wife. So it's just a little fling, a little dinner, a little excitement, right? So ladies, you can't get slow and naive all of a sudden when you get married. And you as an individual, if you are married in this session, or you're in a serious relationship with someone, you have to set boundaries for yourself, and you have to make sure your husband also has boundaries. That is not a matter of yes, yes, Ayana, that's true. It's not a matter of well, I'm married, so now are good. No, no, no. You still have feelings. Your eyes still open. It still have attractive people out there. So you have to set boundaries. So in other words, and what kind of boundaries I'm talking about? Don't don't go and get too close with somebody of the opposite sex where you're spending a lot of time with the person, especially in a setting where it's just the both of you all. So now if you're working with somebody closely, right? Let's say your job takes you on the road, and whoever you're working with, right? And you know when you watch these police movies, right? Cops. I don't know that if they are partners when they go out on the road, right? Let's say you are a female police officer and your partner you're working with whole day on the road is a male police officer and he attractive, right? You have to set boundaries. You have to um, be aware of the type of conversations you all are having, right? What kind of conversations you all having outside of work and why if he comes, even if it's a joke, because you might say, gosh, I'm just joking, and he telling you some, you find he coming on a little charming, and when you come in the morning, he telling you, oh gosh, girl, you're looking real nice today, boy. That hubby lucky boy, hubby lucky, all them kind of thing. Don't play those games, right? Yes, don't play those games. So if you are close with someone, a male person, you have no choice. Let's say it's work or whatever. My suggestion is try not to be, right? But if you have no choice, right, and you have to work closely with someone, pull them up. If they're making statements like that and they're trying, because they're testing your boundaries. What a lot of times these men are doing is testing to see if you do have boundaries, to see how far they could go, to see how much talk you will take. And then after the talk, it might be a little touch on your hand and say, oh gosh, your skin's smooth, girl, like butter, right? And boy, when last your husband tell you your skin like butter? You ain't hear that. You ain't hear that for so long, right? Let's say this. I mean, it might sound thing, but this is how it happens. You ain't hear your husband tell you nothing so for ages, and this man telling you your skin like butter, and your eyes like dove eyes, and your hair is like silk, right? And you don't know the last day your husband hit you a compliment like that. Don't think that you are superwoman and that you could handle it, especially the man attractive, right? If the man, if if he's not so easy on the eyes, it might be a little easier. But even that is a challenge because ladies, how many of you all know we love something that all women love is to feel beautiful and to get compliments. I don't know any woman who does not want to feel beautiful and to know that their partner thinks that they're beautiful and giving them that type of affirmation. And so if you are not getting it, right, that is not silk, that cotton, that is sorry. No, you know what it is? I just actually had a picture in my mind. It's something that's used to clean stuff. And when you wet it, it get hard. Anyway, let's not go there. That was a real side. I got sidetracked. Sorry. Right? Anyway, so right, yeah, something like that, right? It looked like straw. Anyway, back to the important things, right? So ladies, men want to push. If a man on you, he is going to do it slowly but surely, but he's going to push to see how far you're going to allow him to go. And obviously, this is going to start off subtle. He's not going to come out and say, again, I like you, I know you're married, we have sex. It don't be so unless, I don't know, maybe, right? But he's going to start with the smallest little things and push and push and push, right? And so the first thing, any married couple, yes, inch by inch, any married couple or dating couple needs to do Once you find that one and you say, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, nobody gets married with the intention of being unfaithful. At least I hope so. I know the world twisted now, but nobody says I do. And in the back of their mind, I say, I can't wait for my first conquest. Can't wait for my first outside man. Oh gosh, or my outside woman. Nobody does that. You say I do, and you want to commit your life to this person, and you hope you're in love with the person, and your intention is to grow old with the person. But ladies, guess what? There's a lot of infidelity happening out there. So it means somewhere along the line, along the journey of marriage and love, things got broken down, right? And a lot of times that happens because there were no boundaries set, right? And also you had a naive thinking after getting married, right? That I'm so in love with my husband that I'm not attracted to no other man. Like, oh gosh, you don't have your husband is not the best looking man in the world, your boyfriend either. So you might see, right? I'm not saying that they should be, but somebody might come and, looking all, well put together, and busting a little too sweet words on you. You gotta protect yourself from that, right? Protect yourself from that. So boundaries, very important, ladies, and not to take it for granted that I'm married and that means I'm safe. Nobody gonna be on my case. No, that's not true, right? So first things first, right? This is I'm going through some of the things that you might lack in your relationship, in your marriage, that could cause infidelity. But let me say this first before I go on to the things you lack and the signs, right? Marriage is a commitment of love, and we say vows by the altar, for better or for worse, in sickness and health. You take the person to be your only, one and only, the two shall become one, all of these things. And a big part of marriage is commitment, right? And it doesn't matter, no, bad word, that's not true. I was going to say it doesn't matter if all these things are lacking. Your husband should not commit adultery, right? He's supposed to be committed because a big part of your marriage is a commitment you're making to this person. But ladies, even the Bible warns us about time away from your partner sexually, from your husband. Let me stop saying partner, from your husband sexually, that it can be a dangerous thing. That if you are married and you're not having sex, it should be for a short time, and for both of you should consent. So the Bible's examples for why you should do that is for if you're praying and fasting for some reason as a family, and it's okay for this week we're not having sex, and you both agree. But the Bible goes on to say, make sure and when you're all done, go back and do your thing, because in case either one of you lacks self-control and end up getting themselves in trouble. So even the Bible, so some women might say, right, and again, it's a naive way to think. My husband, supposed to love me and be committed to me no matter what, right? Whether I cuss him, I treat him bad, I don't cook for him, whether I think, whatever, he's supposed to love me, he committed to me, that's my husband, right? That may be true to an extent, right? But you cannot be foolish. If you are denying certain things that comes with a love relationship, in the physical and even in the in other sense, sorry, emotional as well, it could put a strain on your marriage and on your husband. And if somebody comes along in those vulnerable times, ladies, when things are broken down and in a mess, very dangerous. Somebody who's given him everything that he wanted to get from you, his wife, it is dangerous. I'm not saying that he is right for doing it, but again, it is a practicality of life. And even the Bible warns us that some people, it shouldn't be here. The Bible says that there's some people who lack self-control. So it will happen to people who lack self-control. But I have the ability, and you have the ability, once you have God in you, to have control, right? And to be able to contain yourself, even though things aren't going good in your marriage, right? But not everybody has that type of control. So we have to be cautious, right? So I'm saying these things, ladies, but I don't want you all to think, so what, I had to be perfect for my husband to stay with me and not have sex outside? No, I'm not saying that. All I'm doing is sharing wisdom that will help you in your marriage to make things better, right? And just things break down. And just to show you these things that might be lacking contributes to that breakdown, right? So yes, right? So here we go. So number one. So the first thing is boundaries, right? That is the first thing I want you all to know. You have to set boundaries. Number one is the lack of affection. And when I talk about affection, I am not talking about sex. And this is not number one as in the most important thing. It's just a list of 6 things, right? I'm not talking about it does come down to self-control, because what are you going to do if, okay, a good example, sorry, that comment sidetracked me, but it's a good one, right? Joseph in the Bible. Joseph, yeah. Joseph, yeah. Potiphar's wife, right? Joseph was not married, right? You all know the story in the Bible, right? Well, if you don't, I'll tell you really quick. Joseph worked for Potiphar, a very high general in Pharaoh's army. He was, probably just right under Pharaoh. Joseph worked for him. Joseph was handsome, young, and single. But Potiphar's wife was attracted to him, and she literally threw herself on him, right? And he had to, listen, he wasn't married, he was single, but he had to use, not even self-control. He used his brain and he ran. The Bible says he actually flee. He got himself out of there. You know why he ran? Because he probably tell himself, watch me, how this woman looking, because she was attractive. How this woman looking? If she even touch me, I don't know if I could be able to resist. So let me just run, because she looking like she mad out here. So let me make my exit and go before I get myself in trouble, right? And many times that is the approach you need to take, right? From the time you realize, wait, now, why are you watching me so? Why don't even try to negotiate? Just say, yeah, so I'm gone. This conversation has ended, or whatever situation you're in, right? So you need to have self-control. Lack of affection, right? Not lack of sex, right? That will come up after. I'm talking about the things that, and in every single one of these, ladies, I want to ask you all a question. If you are married, or let's say you're in a long-term relationship that has gone sour, when you think back at when you were dating your husband, right? If you're married, or let's say when you're in a relationship for 10 years, and think back at when you first got together, right? Nobody had to tell you. You didn't have to come to no session like this for anybody to tell you you had to be affectionate. You all couldn't keep your hands off each other. Not so, right? Wrong, whether it's wrong or right, you know what I mean? You're attracted to each other. And so, and your boyfriend or your husband in the early days of your marriage, or let's say when you were courting, would tell you, compliment you. Well, I hope he compliment you, tell you you're beautiful, he love you, and do that, the kind of affection, not sex, just be affectionate, touch you, hug you, those kind of things. And those things, as a woman, you want to feel that type of love. You want to feel that type of affection. It's not just about sex, right? And when things happen in a marriage and that starts to break, all human beings, guys, even children, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, crave that type of affection, right? When I say crave, not in a bad way, we were born to be loved, to love, and to be loved, right? And every human being has that desire in them to feel affection from another. Children need hugs. Children need plenty hugs and kisses and affirmation. You need to tell them you love them every day if you could. Doesn't necessarily have to, well, that's just my opinion, right? But two adults married for years or in a relationship for years, my husband often tell me he loved me every day. For me to feel that affirmation or to feel he loved me doesn't mean to do it every day. But in the beginning of a relationship, when you're building something with someone, you need to let the person know how you feel. And so it's natural that it would be, more, it will come up more, you'll talk about it more. Children need to hear that all the time, right? They need, as much as you could tell your child, I love you, darling, I love you, hug them, kiss them, you're perfect, things like that, right? it doesn't really change with adults, but it's just that now that we are socialized and we understand more, we realize, okay, saying it all the time doesn't necessarily, first of all, mean that it's true. And if the person doesn't say it, right, it doesn't mean that they don't love you, right? Of course, you want to hear it, but you don't have to, you put pressure on your husband to say, you didn't say I love you today, you know, yeah. If a day pass and your husband don't tell you I love you, it's okay. I think by now you know your husband love you, right? Or in the case of any relationship where there is real love, I'm talking about, the person doesn't always have to use words. It can be in many different ways that you show that love, right? But it is very important when you're building a relationship, and in many different types of relationships, right? At different times as well. And so when you start to lack that, when you actually start to feel like, okay, I have never, people who know me, right? I don't crave hugs from strangers, right? But when I say strangers, sorry, people outside of my immediate family, right? But I do remember a time, actually, it was during COVID when we were away for a while, away from each other as a church, and we came back together. And I was so happy to see everybody. And they're telling you, don't hug, right? Don't hug people. And you're feeling like, oh gosh, I didn't see this person for so long. You want to give them a hug, that kind of thing, right? So it's a natural thing. And if in our love relationship you're not getting that, it could do a number on you, right? And it really I'll get to it next week, right? You do feel a void, right? But there's a fix for that as well. But you could feel a void, you could feel, because remember, it's a love relationship. It's not two friends liming. And so you want to feel loved, right? And when that affection stops, um, you know, it could. So you have to think back, ladies, of how things were in the beginning. And if it's not so now, why? Something broke down the relationship. It could have been infidelity itself that broke down that trust, just issues at home, finances, quarrels, whatever. And you feel like you lost that connection with your husband. But if you want to regain it, you have to go back to the beginning. Even the Bible talks about, if we feel that we had a relationship with God and we were in love with Him, we would, um, talk to people about God, read our Bible all the time. Everything was God because we were just so in love with Him. And He said, if you lost that connection and you want to reconnect, He says, go back to your first love. Go back to the things you used to do when you first fell in love with me. This is God talking to us. Same thing in your relationship, right, ladies? So don't neglect that, right? And I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to, there's not supposed to have any men on this call. So I'm talking about you, right? Going to your husband and being affectionate, right? And I don't want to hear anybody tell me, again, next week we'll cover this. Well, he don't show me no affection, so I not showing him affection, right? We're going to deal with that statement, right? Um, Number two, lack of attention, and this is different to affection again. Um, Life happens when you get married, when you have kids and you have responsibility. You're working, both of you are working. um, you end up forgetting that I am in a marriage. This is my spouse. This is the person that I'm supposed to be connected with. Actually, you're actually supposed to be more connected to your. Somebody ain't gonna like this or agree, but I never saw God say anywhere in the Bible that you should be one with your child. But the Bible actually says you should become one with your husband, that two shall become one. And He actually described your relationship with your husband to His relationship with the church. That's supposed to be a tightest relationship, right? Your husband. And when things start getting in the way of you paying your husband attention, right? Not saying you don't love him, but because of the busyness of life, you forget again to go back to the first thing. So it's like just two people in a house. You do, I going to work, you going to work, I come home, I cook, you eat, yes, we do what we have to do, but there's no real attention there, right? And sometimes spouses actually get jealous when they see, um, let's say in the case of the woman, which is a rare thing, where you see the man paying more attention to the children now. It's normally the reverse, right? Where men start to get jealous of their own children because they see in their wives spending all this time now with the baby and the toddlers, and see now, and your life becomes your children, and they actually start to feel neglected, right? Because you're not paying them any attention, right? Or you're paying your job a lot of attention because you had to pay a mortgage so you could stay living in the house, right? With your family, right? But from the time you start to neglect your husband in that way, and you no longer give him any attention and time, um, again, it could be a dangerous thing. Here, why, ladies, right? While you are not paying him attention, there may be somebody else who is telling him, going back to the affection, who might be saying, they have these friendly ladies. How you going? Oh my gosh, so good to see you. And you're hugging up your husband. Don't be hugging my husband. Why you hugging my husband for? You couldn't be so happy to see my husband and you want to hug him, right? Right? So hugging him and, oh gosh, you look so nice today, and complimenting him and talking to him. Let's say somebody in work or whatever, something he might be doing, somebody in church, right? Um, so Dina, I'll ask you this, right? I want you to remember. We could probably talk about it at the end, right? When we open up the question. I hear you saying that. But these same husbands who don't pay attention, did they do it before you were married? Did they do it when you first met? Did they do it when you all were building a relationship, when you all had the sparks and the fire? If they did it then they have it in them. Well, then, I was going to say something, but it might come out bad. But then, so if your husband never paid any attention, never showed any affection, why be with them? Well, so what? So I mean, if it's we'll get to that at the end. Let me don't get sidetracked, right? The next thing, ladies, is affirmation, right? And this for you, men, this is another trap. I've seen this happen, and people come in to talk to us, and this is something that is a common thing, where the wife's or husband, right? But again, I'm talking to ladies, but I keep mentioning the husband. I don't want all it to say, well, it's men that do that too. It's only woman I talking to, right? So that's why on you, right? You no longer tell your husband things like, I'm so proud of you. You've worked so hard for this family. And I find, you have so much wisdom. Now, you married a man, right? So if you marry somebody who never had wisdom and you was never proud of, that's not my problem, right? But I would hope that there are some kind of qualities in your husband that made you marry him, you know, um, some kind of strength, some sort of leadership, something, right? So if your husband was never that way, you can't expect that to just happen, right? But I'm talking about somebody who really impacted your life. Let's say when you first met, and you would tell him all these nice things, even about his looks. You're so handsome, eh? Gosh, your shoulders so broad. I like your lips, or I like your eyes, or whatever, or you gosh, um you work so hard, you do such a good job provided, whatever it is, whatever things you might have said, words to encourage your husband, things to make him. Men love that. Men love that, right? Whatever they're good at, you tell them too. So let's say they're good at carpentry or fixing things. So we say, oh my gosh, you anything you do bad, you could fix. You're the best boy, things like that. And you used to tell them when you're tracking a man, you just know what to say. Ladies, alive, when you're tracking somebody, you know exactly what to say. You might even make up stuff, right? That's not there. But you know what to do, you know what to say. How come when they get married now it stopped, right? So again, you all might say, well, he stopped doing the things, right? What he no longer have wisdom, he no longer handsome, what he get ugly. You know what I mean? You must be able to find something that you could compliment your husband about and affirm, make him feel valued, make him feel loved. Because again, when the little girl in the office come and start to tell him, oh gosh, you a real good boy. Any report they bring for you, you could fix it, you could do the reports, you're the best, you're so smart, or you smell so good. What cologne you wear? Oh my gosh, when you come in the office and I smell that cologne, whoosh, and when you scare your pants, right? Your shoes just always look on point, boy, right? And this girl telling him these things every day, and you don't tell him man nothing, right? He can break down. Again, ladies, remember what I said at the beginning, right? I'm not saying that because you're not doing everything you're supposed to do as a wife, it gives your husband a right to go out and cheat. But we're dealing with flesh, we're dealing with people who have weaknesses, we're not dealing with perfect human beings. And so these are strategies to help, just to help to keep the fire in your marriage. So that, somebody else might come along, yeah, somebody might try, and your husband might say, well, what she gonna give me that my wife's not giving me? What she give me that I you know what I mean? It's easier if things in order in your home, in your marriage, than if it is not. When your husband goes out there, he could get himself in trouble, right? Please, I'm not saying that is your fault. It is never, ladies, listen, it is never, ever, ever your fault if your husband cheats on you or your boyfriend. It is never your fault. It is him making a conscious decision to be unfaithful to you, right? And breaking that commitment. It's not you, nothing that you did. So this is not what this is about. This is not you saying, well, okay, I didn't do this, so he did. That's not what I'm saying, right? I hope you will get that. These are things to help, right? Now, lack of next one. When life starts to happen, like this is lack of attraction, right? When life starts to happen, and I'm not talking about physical. When life starts to happen, physical is part of it, but pressure and stress brings out the worst in people. Agreed? Right? Sometimes you could be going good with somebody in a relationship, even a friend, a girlfriend. You have a friend, and everything going good, laughy, laughy, my best friend. And then when something come in your relationship, some kind of stress or some bacchanal happen in your circle or whatever, and you see another side of people, right? Those of you married, you might have never seen certain things in your husband before. Good night, Hamilton. I wonder if Hamilton is a man. If in case Hamilton is a man, this is a lady's call only. So you can watch on YouTube. Maybe that's your last name, right? Oh, actually, I know a Hamilton, but yeah, let's not go there. Yeah, what I was saying, Hamilton throw me off. That's your last name. Awesome. Welcome, Hamilton. Yeah. So, what I was saying, I was talking about lack of attraction, right? Life happens. You all end up arguing. You all see the worst of each other, right? And sometimes after a long period of stress and arguments, let's say it's financial stress, because we spoke about that, we know that can break down a marriage, right? After, let's say, years of financial stress or years of just some kind of stress in the marriage, and it's almost like you lost who you were when you were with each other. And so when you all come together now, there's actually nothing, no longer anything for your husband to be attracted to in terms of your personality, because you're grumpy around him. You probably don't want him to touch you. It's just two people living in a house, right? And again, you might say, well, it's not my fault if he do so if we arguing or whatever, right? And so you become, and listen, ladies, I've heard many married couples say this, right? It's like the person becomes somebody else. This is not the person I married. If I had a penny for every time I heard those words from a couples who went through issues, I wouldn't be rich, but I'll have a lot of pennies, right? This is not the person I married, right? And so they claim that there's no longer an attraction there because this is not even who I married. But that's not true. What happened is life came and break down that attraction and affection and all those things that you had for the person. And the stress of life brought out the worst in you, right? But you are married, and in your thinking now, I always say this, there are some situations, ladies, that you need to end a marriage. There are. I know that for some churches will never say those words because they act as though marriage is like your ticket to go to heaven. If you stay married, that's the only way you can go to heaven. And if you divorce, you're going to hell, right? If a man is being abusive to you, and I was going to say continually, even if it's once, if you get slapped once, right out. I don't mean get divorced. Go somewhere else. Take yourself out of that situation if you can, so that you can no longer be harmed physically. You are nobody's punching bag, right? If your husband is continually being unfaithful to you, or even if you do it once, you have a right to leave if you want as well, right? But more so, if he keeps doing it, if it's like a pattern, you don't need to live in that kind of situation, right? So everything I'm telling you here is within, like a marriage that, yes, there's hope. I'm not talking about a marriage where, you're being abused, whether it's physically or mentally, emotionally, cussing you out every day. I'm not talking about that kind of situation. I'm talking about two people who genuinely love each other, but things just got broken down along the way, right? And the romance got broken down, the stress of life got to them, but you really do want your marriage to work, right? Sometimes because of what you all went through as a couple, you you no longer could find it in yourself to even show that person kindness, even to go as far as to say affection. You can't even show them kindness. You're walking around with anger in your home. In your own home, you are angry at your husband, right? And that is no way to live. And so therefore, your husband is not seeing you as attractive anymore, because ladies, news flash, right? Your physical appearance does account for attraction in a marriage. But after years of being married to someone, you'd realize that the physical is not as important as you thought. Because you could be drop dead gorgeous, right? Drop dead gorgeous. Your husband attracted to you physically, right? But you have a stink attitude. You're cussing him out. You're being disrespectful to him, right? Things just not working out between you all. Like, he don't want your physical. It's like you could become invisible. He might feel a need, which we're gonna get to again, right? Maybe the end of the session into next week, right? Where sexually, because he's still attracted to you physically, he might say, well, this is still my wife and I want to have sex and have sex with you. But I don't know about you, but I don't know what woman would want that. That is having sex with someone, not making love. So the person is just really filling that need, right? But where there is attraction to the person, to your soul, to who you are, the intimacy is it's gonna be great, right? As opposed to, this is my body, I'm supposed to have sex with it, let me do it, right? And you might feel satisfied physically, but there's no emotional connection. Who wants that? Who wants that? I don't know about you, but who wants to know that your husband having sex with you, totally disconnected from who you are as a person, and that when he finished there, all you're going back to not talking? I don't know, sorry about you, but so as much as you might think that physical attraction is important, and it is, right, especially for men, um, your husband also wants to be attracted to who you are as a person, and to know that my wife has these attributes that I'm attracted to. She's kind, she helps people, she loves me, she takes care of me home, she loves my children, she speaks to me in a respectful way. Those things attract men as well, right? Not only the physical. Um, Lack of communication causes a breakdown as well. And we actually spoke a lot about that last week, right? So I'm not going to go too much into lack of communication, and lack of communication comes from a lack of all the other things. Where you don't know how to communicate properly. You no longer communicate. Sometimes it's just few words spoken because you have to, because you're living in the same house. You dropping each other today? No, I dropping them. Okay, cool. What time you picking them up? 5? Okay, cool. That's the extent of your conversation. You're cooking today or buy lunch? Buy lunch. Okay, right. So you're communicating, you're talking to each other because you have to, and you're sharing a space. But that's not really communication. And if that's how you're living after a while, guess what? When they go to work and have this girl sit down here listening to everything he say, every word come out his mouth is like gold for her. And she's, wow, wow, really? Wow, wow. And listen, what man don't like that? What man don't want a woman to sit down and bawl wow when he talking? And ladies, what man wouldn't want that? To say, wow, you have so much wisdom. Wow, really? And ask him questions and say, gosh, that happened to you. And right? But when you go home, you just see now our wife with her full face because she vexed. Look at food there, cooking covered out there, and she gone. Right? So, ladies, if that is what your relationship is, again, I'm not saying it gives the man a right to go outside and be unfaithful. But if that's what he's coming home to, and then when he go out, he's getting something else, a different type of communication, a whole different type of interaction with a female, then, right, it's going to be hard. You're putting pressure on him. The last one is a lack of sex. And this could not necessarily be that all you're vexed with each other. It could be for some reason it started off for a particular reason. Or it could be that, let's say there was infidelity in the past, and you as a woman, you no longer feel like you I mean, I heard this already too, where I can't see myself, knowing what my husband did, even though he decided to stay with him, right? He was unfaithful in the past, he decided to stay, but you can't have sex with him. I just don't feel right, I feel this and that, or whatever, and you're married and you're not having sex. Recipe for disaster. The Bible says that too, right? There are many reasons that could be, but even the Bible says don't do that. If you're not having sex for whatever reason, come back together. Least one of you be tempted because you have a lack of self-control, right? So these are the things that you might be lacking in your marriage, that again, not necessarily causing, I don't want to say that causing your husband to be unfaithful, but it causes the breakdown, and it makes it a little bit easier, or more difficult for him to resist temptation outside when somebody's coming and giving him all these things that he no longer gets from his wife, right? And I keep saying it over and over, ladies. I am not saying that these things give your husband a right. Please, I don't want anybody to think that's what I'm saying, right? So now we're going to go to the signs, right? And this is going to help 7 signs of your husband perhaps starting a relationship outside, already into cheating, or your boyfriend, right? If you, ladies, this is me. I think I've said this several times on this session, these calls already. If you are dating someone, this is my opinion. This is not me saying this should be the case, right? If you are dating someone who has cheated on you, I call it quits. I wouldn't, my counsel to anybody who is dating someone and has been cheated on would not be to give him another chance. My counsel would be, he just proved one of the biggest things that you need in a marriage is for your husband to be faithful and for you to be faithful. That's one of the biggest things. And if I'm dating you when things supposed to be at its height, you're most attracted to me, it's supposed to have the most sparks and all that, and you cheating on me before we are married, I think it would be a little naive of me to think that it wouldn't happen again. That's just me. So my advice, anybody comes to me, my boyfriend cheats on me, what to do? Bye, boyfriend. You're not showing the qualities of a husband. As a boyfriend, you're showing that your faithfulness and commitment is not one of the characteristics that you have. And so I would advise that person to move on, right? I don't know how come I said that, but it was probably important to say, right? But I was talking about signs, right? So that even though you're dating somebody, there's signs that you could pick up as well. And ladies, everybody thinks that their situation is special and their man is different. And so I'm sure there ladies might be listening to me when I go through the list of things to look for, and you saying, but I know that is not my baby. Not because they say that is not true. That don't mean he's cheating. He's not cheating on me, right? And you choose to ignore the signs, even though it's right there in front of you, right? Now, let me just say, these things and by themselves I'm not saying that once this is happening, ladies, please. I'm not saying once this is happening, your husband or your boyfriend is cheating. I'm saying that these are signs that it could be that the person is being unfaithful to you, right? And knowing what these signs are early, it's not for you to just have knowledge. It's for you to ask questions. Perhaps because sometimes you could slap your husband on before you go down the road. you know, and you ask questions, and how you ask and how you approach is so important as well, right? You don't go like a bargain, although I know it's hard not to do that, right? So even though these signs pop up, it doesn't mean he's already being unfaithful. He may not be having sex with someone, but he could be forming an attachment, and you could intervene, and you all could get counsel, and this things could work out, right? But if you found out that he's cheating, then you still same thing could happen. Again, if you're married, um, ask me at the end, right? Ask me that question at the end, my dear, because that would take me down another road, right? But please remember and ask me at the end when you can ask questions. Right? If your boyfriend or your husband is displaying all of these signs, more than likely he is cheating. You know, one, you could say, well, okay, not necessarily, that's just how he is. I meet him, so two, but if he's showing all, you know, all right, so here we go. Number one, very, again, I'm not saying that your husband cheated or your boyfriend if this is the case, but my God, it's a sign, right? Very protective of his phone, or he has two phones and one of them you cannot touch. Starts taking calls, and let's say there's a particular call that comes in, and he always walks out of the room to take the call. He will not stay and talk to you, right? So has to walk out of your way to take calls. People who have nothing to hide don't hide. If your husband or boyfriend has nothing to hide, why hide your phone? People who have nothing to hide don't need to hide. Why can't I touch your phone? What is on a phone right now? Ladies, I'm not saying that you're, especially if it's a boyfriend, a guy, and even if it's just started dating. I'm not saying to go and say, well, let me see your phone to test the man, right? If I know dating you as a fella and you want to see my phone, I'll be like, you're rock so, right? But after a while, there's supposed to be transparency if the relationship is heading towards marriage. Ladies, however, if you are married, right? What I hiding from my spouse? What am I hiding exactly from the person who I'm supposed to be one with? The person I'm supposed to be most transparent with. So if your partner, and this was the number one sign, and this is the number one sign because of the age that we live in too, because people have a whole life on their phone, right? You can't tell me it's business. Even if it's a bit, what business you hiding from me? What, you're making money, you don't want me to know? That is a problem too. Why I can't watch your phone? You understand? So, and I'm not saying that there are women who are a bit obsessive and mistrusting, and that you can have trust issues as a woman, right? That's not just you can. And you're always constantly asking your husband to see his phone. And I could see a man getting mad about that. Of course, I could see a man getting mad about that, right? Because he feeling like if you just don't trust him, and out of just wickedness, say, nah, I ain't giving you my phone. Because there are women who have trust issues. I saw what lady said, but there are women and men with trust issues, right? I'm not saying that, yes, you have trust issues, but you're still supposed to be able to see the phone, but there are women who take it overboard, right? But there should not be any hiding of phone. So ladies, if your husband or your boyfriend, if you have no access to their phone, I am sorry to tell you this, but that is a big red flag, huge red, right? I would love to hear what reasons your husband or boyfriend could be telling you why you can't see their phone. Not so much your boyfriend, but the husband, right? That's number one. Number two, he is picking. Now, these are things that are new to her. Listen, worse than a man who you meet who never used to let you see a phone is a man who used to let you see his phone and you had full access, you had password and thing, and all of a sudden that changed. That's a little problem. If I had access at one time, and all of a sudden I don't know your password, I can't touch the phone. Woo, ladies, yeah, that's a concern. Same thing with this, right? If you and your husband get married fighting, right, or like date fighting, married fighting is normal for you, right? But number two, he starts picking unnecessary fights with you all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, he is like things that never used to be an issue before becoming an issue, and he making things a big deal, right? And again, I'm not saying if this was always your pattern as a couple, fine, right? But if it's this change, like you find, well, how come all of a sudden he's picking on me and I doing so much wrong? A lot of times, what men, when they do this, in order to validate their actions, in order to justify, their actions, and to feel justified in what they're doing, they have to make you a villain and they have to make the relationship seem painful. It gives them a little more peace of mind. So it's actually them, sometimes consciously and subconsciously, looking to find the bad so that they could feel justified. Well, yeah, well, I end up cheating because she this and she that, and right, the food too salty and making it a big deal, right? Throwing down the plate and thing. How is food salty? Right? Now remember, I'm talking about if all of a sudden this is happening. Not saying if this was if that is who you marry and that's how he is, well, that you. I'm talking about your husband was normal and all of a sudden he started picking these fights with you, right? It's so that it's like almost them building up a case for when they finish with you or they move on and they cheat, they could say, well, my marriage was a mess and she used to torment me, right? Or vice versa. Number three, you all had an active sex life, nothing changed. Like in other words, nothing changed with you, with him, whatever. And all of a sudden, he doesn't want to have sex with you anymore. Right? He okay physically, you okay physically, you looking the same, you looking the same dynamics involved. But all of a sudden it's like, oh, excuses. And you're like, but you know, it's like, what, you know, it's not at a change. And you know, some men could be that shallow that let's say you look a certain way before and as time go on, you change. Right? Talking about like a sudden, you know, switch where it's like, why, right? That could be a sign that his affections lie elsewhere. Or sometimes it could actually be a guilt. So it's actually for them, I don't want to have sex with my wife because no one having sex outside, right? In some strange way, they feel it's better this way, that I don't have sex with my wife, right? Number four, somebody just said gaslighting. Number four, he will gaslight you when you ask about these changes. Make you think you crazy, right? Tell you are the one that have trust issues. Nothing wrong with him, right? Y'all know what gaslighting is. Like make you feel like you're mad. Like after the conversation with him, you feel like you actually end up feeling like you are the villain. Even though you're seeing all the signs, all the red flags, and all you are doing is asking questions based on facts that you are seeing, he making you seem like you are mad, right? And what he's saying, when you think about it after, not even making sense, right? But what he's trying to do is deflect and make you look like the one where you actually start to question yourself. You actually say, well, maybe I am being too hard. Maybe I am the one with the issue. Maybe I'm the one who really don't trust the man. Maybe nothing wrong, right? Gaslighting you, right? If number five, he is never able to give details about where he was when you all are apart, right? Now, again, I think it's common courtesy if you're married to someone and you all live in the same home and the person is going out that you say, hey, I'm going down in the grocery, right? I'm coming back. Or hey, I'm going by the mechanic, right? I'm coming back. It actually makes sense to me in this world we live in and to know where each other, where your children are, where your husband is, not to track them per se, right? It's common courtesy. Or to just pick up your keys and, right? Not just he picking up his keys and going and it's like, oh, where you going? Now you don't worry about that. Now imagine telling your wife to worry about where you're going. Right? Now you don't worry about that. You don't worry about where you're going. Right? So if again, especially if he was transparent before in this respect, he would always tell you, hey, I'm going by the mechanic, right? Or going down by John, you're gonna play some cards or whatever. And all of a sudden, you can't get no details when you all are not together, right? You are not together anymore. Sorry. He leave the house and come back and he can't tell you where he went. He can't tell you who he was with. and he gets irritated when you ask. That's another sign too. So it's not him just saying, oh gosh, you know, but I get mad. You shouldn't ask him. What? I shouldn't ask you where you went? You know what I mean? Right? Ladies, you might say, well, this is, he's a man. He don't have to tell me. No, you know, no. Again, especially for change, you know, yeah, I think it's common courtesy, right? Can you do the same thing? Can you just walk out the house and come back anytime and no questions asked, right? So that could be a sign as well, right? Number 6, right? This is one that a lot of people might miss and take for granted, right? When you just meet your husband or your boy, when you now meet your boyfriend, when people start to get to know each other, that's the time that they talk the most about themselves. Ladies, if you are dating, now start. For the married ladies, it's too late, right? Listen well. Because many times they say things that they would not say to you when you'll get in a relationship, right? Or when you'll get tighter, right? Especially when they bring up past relationships and what they used to do. And if your boyfriend or your husband, or let's say your husband now, before you're married, told you stories about how he had all these women and he cheated on his girlfriend and they never knew. And well, I didn't want to hurt them, so so I had it too. And they make it in that time is a boast. They think it's a boast, right? Like, you know, I this hot boy, I had all these real girls or whatever, right? But listen, it's important to listen when they're telling you these things. A lot of these stories that they share with you are actually red flags that you as a woman need to be smart and say, oh, okay. Worse yet, if he getting close to you and he have a girlfriend. So you're not married, he has a girlfriend, but he getting close to you and sharing intimate things with you and while they're getting close. And let's say he end up leaving his girlfriend for you. All of those things are red flags, right? Whether the relationship going good or bad, it's a red flag. The relationship with his girlfriend and me, right? So listen when they talk, when you are dating someone in the earlys, again, too late for the married ladies, but think back. If your husband now has a history of cheating on you while you're married, think back at the things that he used to say when you were dating, the stories he told you. All of those could have been red flags, things that you missed, right? Because you didn't see it as that way then. Um, and last but not least, um, trust. I'm saying intuition, but I could always also say trust the Holy Spirit in you, right? But you know, women have this intuition. Now, you can't only go with intuition, but sometimes I have heard many women tell me that they found out their husband was cheating first based on just intuition. They had no signs, no clue, nothing. And from that intuition, they then started doing a little digging, a little investigative work, only to find out that their intuition was right, right? So trust your intuition. Sometimes it is leading you the right way, but don't go based on intuition alone, right? Or let's say I'm saying intuition, but it could be Holy Spirit. But women just have this way, you know, with these things. And if you do have a sense that, you know, something is up, not based on any evidence, then I guess based on that, you could start asking questions, you could start doing some digging, investigating. Nothing is wrong with that, right? Um, but be careful how you go about doing that, because if there is nothing there, that could now turn things upside down, right? So be careful when you say have intuition, how you move forward with that. But many times, listen, many times I've heard women say that. All they started with was intuition, a thought, just a feeling they had, and then they took it further and the person was really cheating, right? So it's not something to be ignored if you have that feeling all of a sudden, right? Um, that's something. Remember, you all are connected in a deep way. This is your husband, you know, and so you would have a sense of that something is wrong, even without outward signs, right? Um, so I am not going to get into the other part. I will leave that for next because it's actually very important. What I want to talk about is um, the kind of love that's actually required of you as a wife in a marriage. And sometimes, I don't want to use the word, some of these sacrifices that you may have to make in the name of love, right? But it's really going to help you, and also to connect to the most important, which is God, and Him being the one that can fill any void that you might feel in your marriage. And I know that women, because marriage is something that involves love and romance and sex and all of that, you think, well, how God fill in that void? You can't see God filling those voids. You can say, yes, when I hurt, God can help me feel better. Yes, when I'm sick, He can heal me. Yes, when I'm sad, but listen, God is able to fill any void in your life. And He's actually supposed to be that the thing that makes you, the person, sorry, that makes you complete in your life, right? But you get into that, and also, and that is actually going to cover the unmet expectations, the lack of attention and time is very interesting. That's going to be next week, right? But I want to give you all an opportunity to ask questions. I did see some very interesting questions, a couple ones while I was speaking. So is Celeste on or Sarana? I know Celeste told me she might have to step away.
I'm on next.
Hi. Who's it,
Yes,
Sarana?
Crystal.
Your song and
No, Crystal.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
hear me now? Oh, okay, Sarana there.
Okay, I don't know if it's my phone. Hold on now, but I'm not hearing you just now. Talk again, let me see.
I need
Hearing you now. I hear you now, yeah.
All right, yeah, no problem.
Questions that I saw that I didn't want to like stop and answer, so we need to like go back in the chat and see.
I'm seeing I came on a little bit late as well, right? So, but I'm seeing someone asking, the person, so the first question I'm seeing is asking if a child comes out of infidelity.
What's the question there? What's the question?
Well, if a child comes out of infidelity, that is what I'm seeing.
I know, but I'm asking the person, if you're on the call, I don't know if you'd be willing to unmute. If you're still here, unmute your mic and come on. I'm not actually understanding what you're asking concerning that. Or you could type it in the chat. I saw another one up earlier, Sarana. Another question.
Michelle G says, oh, he has different, oh no, she's saying something.
What she said?
I'm not seeing any more questions. I don't know if it's because I came on late.
Right. I
only seeing like 12 comments, and out of it, I'm only seeing really that one question. So I don't know if Crystal, are you seeing any more questions?
1 second.
Right. So ladies, in the meantime, I would like to hear from you all if you have questions. If you even if you disagree with something I said, or you have input, or you had an experience, you want to share anything, this is your opportunity to unmute your mic and go ahead and share, ask your questions.
I see Ray, I said.
No, that was the first question, Sarana, asking if a child comes out of it. That was the first question, but I guess the person's name is Love Too. Nix, it might be in response to maybe a comment you were making. So I don't know if the person is saying, what if a child comes out of infidelity? Should you still stay? Should you still go? Maybe that was the question, but maybe that person could maybe ask.
Yeah, I guess if they're still on, they can ask.
I'm also seeing someone saying that they disagree with. I disagree. We need to trust each other. So,
well, I said that, of course. So nothing to disagree about there. There was a question that just came in there.
Right. Question: how do you overcome it? Not saying you don't trust the person, because you've seen the person change, but some things trigger that feeling which came with the infidelity.
Right. So this is, I'm assuming, someone who is in a relationship where there was infidelity in the past, and I could, if you decide to stay in a relationship where there was infidelity, as a couple, you all are going to need a lot of support and counsel, because that trust, right? Let me just say to the person who asked that question, trust needs to be earned, right? Trust is not an automatic thing. And I'm having a whole session. Sarana, you can mute your mic until time to talk.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I remember doing a session on, well, and we covered that. And if your husband was unfaithful to you and you all decide to try, to make the relationship work to continue, he has to do whatever it is in his power to regain your trust, right? And over time, the trust is not going to be, so the person who asked the question, it's okay to have little issues after infidelity. It's a difficult thing to do, to carry on a marriage after infidelity, right? And so don't beat up yourself if you feel, well, like, okay, there's still things that trigger, I still feel that's normal, right? But what should be happening is there should be extreme transparency now in your relationship, your marriage. Your husband shouldn't, let's say he was one who, just an example, right? Let's say he never allowed you access to his phone before. Now, after the infidelity and you're going forward, he should not, that should be open to you, right? Access to his phone, to his whereabouts. He is supposed to be extremely transparent with you, because that trust has to be rebuilt, right? And so I would ask you, not necessarily on the poll, but just to answer this question for yourself, would you say that your husband, he has to prove, okay, would you say that your husband is making an effort to rebuild that trust, or is it just, business as usual? And if he is doing that, my dear, I would say give it time. And if he is proving himself, if time has passed and he is proving himself, there's transparency, accountability, you probably perhaps need to let it go, because remember, you made the decision to move forward, and does not make sense moving forward in a marriage without trust. And so that's something that has to be, rebuilt. But the person who did the cheating, oh my, they have a lot of work to do. It should not be an automatic thing. So no man who decides, a woman decides, okay, I'll give you a next chance, his attitude shouldn't be, well, hey, look, she keep me, and just go on life like normal. He has plenty work to do. And if it is you have plenty work to do to prove and to rebuild that trust. But it will be a difficult process. But with time, it's, if he is doing what he's supposed to do in terms of that transparency, it's supposed to that's supposed to change, so just make sure the problem is not in your mind, then you would have to deal with that. And you could probably get private counseling, on your own to help with that. Anybody else would like to unmute their mic and ask a question or make a comment? Share.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
I'm the one that sent I think it was supposed to be a question about, like, after finding out that your significant other was, let's say it, with somebody else, and a child comes out of the situation, how do you move forward with dealing with the whole situation, meaning your marriage, your relationship, everything itself?
Is it you?
Yes, it's me.
So you all decided you kept the marriage, you stayed in the marriage.
It's a 50-50 right now. Honestly saying, it's 50-50. Because it's like the same thing you were talking about, the trust. It's difficult because every little thing looks suspicious, seems suspicious. So like your heart tells you one thing, your mind tells you another, but yet you're still in the back of your mind, what if it happens again? You know?
Of course.
That's it.
The child now, is the child with the mother or with you all?
Say that again?
The child, the child that you had, is he with you all or with the mother?
No, he is with his mother. He's with his mother.
Okay. And so what kind of relationship does your husband have with the child's mother now?
It's not good. Actually, the grandmother is the mediator. That's how I look at it. She does all the talking on behalf of the mother.
Okay.
Yeah. To me personally, I believe when the situation was going on, whatever he told her, in the back of her mind, he would have left his marriage and gravitate to her. And when everything happened, and I believe that's what in my mind, when she became pregnant, that is when the reality hit that I have a family. I have a family in that too. So I think the disappointment on the other side turned into a lot of hatred and, other things.
So I mean, moving forward, to move forward in that kind of situation, it's as I said before, there has to be now complete transparency and accountability on your husband's part, right? First off, I would say that's not a situation that any woman has to stay in. It's not, right? You're not doing something wrong. It's not a sin to make a decision to say, I can't continue with this marriage, right? But once you decide to continue, your husband is responsible for rebuilding that trust. And if you still have issues and it's because there's still things that are a mystery, I would say that's a dangerous place to begin. So trust could never be rebuilt if you still have suspicions based on things that he's doing. So let's say I'm just using the phone because it's the easiest example, right? Let's say you still can't see his phone, right? Or let's say he still don't tell you where he's going. Like he missing for hours and there's no, those hours just gone. You don't know where he was, right? If those things are still happening, then your marriage is it's in the same, basically you'll end up in a cycle because it is very possible that it can happen again, yes. So if that kind of transparency is not happening, if that accountability is not in the marriage presently, I believe that, and what's another thing too, any husband who is unfaithful to their wife should agree to counseling. And if your husband is not agreeing to counsel to get help to rebuild the marriage, then I would question if he really does want it, if he's willing to do anything to keep his marriage and family, right? And so with all those things considered, you have to look at what is happening and the things that are having you suspicious, right? It could be in some cases your mind, right? Which I could understand, right? Where he may not actually be doing anything, but because of what you went through, your mind playing tricks on you, I'm sure that could happen. But you would know the situation. You would know if it is he's being transparent, if he's being, there's accountability in the relationship now, or if your suspicions are just out of a box, just imaginary, right? Remember what I spoke to about the intuition. But it's hard after somebody cheats on you, is unfaithful to you, so that intuition might get messed up because all you might be thinking is everything now is a sign that he's doing it again, right? And that is understandable, right? So Crystal or Sarana, you could probably put my number in the chat, and the person I'm speaking to, you could always reach out to me privately, and and probably share a little more, and so I could try to help you, to see how you could move forward. But thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else would like to share or ask a question or has a input that they want to make? You could unmute your mic and do so. Hi.
Hi. So in response to love, I think it's love number 2 or something like that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You have to really ask yourself if you could deal with that situation, because it's going to get very complex. Do you want that stress in your life? Because she is going to be a part of your life now. And that's what you have to realize, because they now share a child. I have been in a similar relationship, and he actually cheated on me while I was pregnant. And he now has a child, and it's a real funny story, because the person he left me for, the child ended up not being his. But anyway, but he has another child also, and we are now all linked.
Oh boy.
We are now all linked. So you need to know if you want to deal with that. We are not together, so I don't really have to deal with any how I should say it. Well, I'm going to check my next child's mother today, and the kind of fear that's associated with it, because
Yeah.
what, we're going to slip back into her arms again. I don't have to deal with that. But if you stay, you might have to deal with that. And can you deal with it?
Yeah. So that is that. But that's as I started off telling her, I don't think any woman. It's you can make a decision to say I want out. That's a legitimate reason to end a marriage. God says so, and I say so. But it's also your choice. You can also make a choice to say, both of you though, it can't be you begging the man to stay. Or it can't be you, listen, it cannot be just one person saying, I want it. They both have to be on the same page, want the same things, and work together. But it's gonna be a tough journey, but it's not impossible, But at the same time, thanks for sharing. You do have to consider what your future would be like. And again, if let's say it happens again, and that's a common thing. Because even the person who just shared says, well, he has a child, and then a child that he thought was his child. Um, my grandmother shared a story with me. She said in her early marriage, when she got pregnant, with my mom, she hired a maid to help around, because she couldn't go. I talking my grandmother died at 92, right? So this was years ago. She could not she couldn't see about her, the house and stuff. So she hired somebody in the last couple of months of her pregnancy. And her husband, my grandfather, slept with the maid and got the maid pregnant. So she seen the maid coming to work, the maid continue coming to work, right? And the maid came after the baby. And somebody maid tell her, well, she's pregnant, but the maid didn't tell her who she's pregnant for. She just says she's pregnant, and she would help her out, because she feels sorry for her, because, thing, whatever. And the mark was when the baby was born. But my grandmother said that she ended up helping her with the baby. By that I mean, she stayed with my grandfather for a while, and then eventually he was a loose cannon. So eventually she left. But in the earlys, she helped the maid with her baby, with her husband baby, like, giving her money to see about the child. Because listen, whole drama, right? That doesn't have to be anybody's portion. That don't have to be your life. You don't have to, as a woman, you could say, I done, right? I call it quits, because you're not dependent on that man. That man is not your source of love. So not because you didn't, you didn't get the love you deserved in your marriage, it means you'll never get it again. And you have the love of God to sustain you, right? So it's only if you are codependent on someone to provide love for you, to provide security for you, to provide finances, a roof that over your head, that you will make a decision that I'm going to stay and be tormented, right? But you don't have to make such a decision, right? Anybody else wants to share? Crystal and Sarana, you all didn't put the number. I don't know if I missed it. Put my phone number in the chat now. Anybody else wants to share or make a contribution? You can go ahead and unmute your mic and do so. Nobody else wants to share? Anybody else? Or it could be a question or thanks to the ladies who open up and share. That is a big part of why we have this session, so that you could share openly in a safe environment. I don't know who you are. I have no clue who I'm talking to. And when people share, like the young lady who just shared her experience, it helps others. It opens your eyes sometimes to certain things. It also gets you to a point where you say, oh, wait, now, it's not me going through this thing alone. Other women going through this, right? So it's always a good thing when you all open up and share. Anybody else would like to share before I close?
Hi, Onika. Good night,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I just want to make a small contribution to this topic because I have also went through this, and it was a very terrifying situation. And I always advise women, when your relationship reach to that stage, I mean, nobody's perfect,
Right.
but if your relationship reach to that stage, it's really better you take it to God and walk away, because it's really not a nice experience. You always have in the back of your head that it will happen again. All trust is gone. There's always some issue. Sorry about that. There's always some issue with the child and the child's mother, according to who the individual is, and it was a
So true.
very horrible experience for me. And I always said I wish that I just walked away when I found out, but I didn't, and it caused me more pain.
Wow. So how long did you stay before you eventually left?
Hello.
How long did you stay before you left? Like how long you tried to continue?
Probably like a year.
Okay.
A year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's really not, it's not, I mean, thank you for sharing that, because
It's not nice.
it's not more, it is a traumatic thing. You use the right word, and it's to get
And it
that
torments you so.
to get that trust back is not easy. It's not easy. When that trust is broken, and that's not something that God requires, wants any of his children to do, which is why he says, if your husband is unfaithful or a wife is unfaithful in a marriage, divorce. It's an option, right? It's doesn't have to be the case, but listen, in some cases it's the better, because then you experience a better quality of life. Some people feel staying together is the goal, not being in love and being peace, having peace in your mind, just staying together. Once I stay married, no, that's not the goal of life. You want to have peace in your mind. You want to live in a peaceful environment. You want your children to be raised happy. Some people think staying together for the children is the answer. No, the children tormented too. You tormented and the children tormented, right? So sometimes divorce is the better route, right? So thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate that.
I just want to add 2 things.
Sorry?
I just want to add 2 points.
Sure.
Depending on who the outside child's mother is, it could get really contentious, to the point where they're trying to block the child from getting into a school,
Oh my gosh.
right? By telling the father all kind of nonsense, how the school not good and blah 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 blah. And on top of that, it's a torment to your very soul. So I, like the last person who spoke, I would advise people, don't go through it. Don't bother. I mean, I was lucky because he left.
Okay. So
Right?
he kind of made the decision for you.
Pardon?
I said he kind of made the decision for you. He left.
Yeah, he made the decision, and I'm glad he made that decision, because I couldn't live with it.
Right.
Every so often you go in by her to do what? I'm not sure. They say
Yeah.
check on the child, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. You said 2 things. That was it?
Yeah, it was just the interference by the other mother, and it's a torment to somebody's soul. So just avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Latifa, You want to go ahead and share?
Yes, hi, good night.
Good night.
So I was very a little uncomfortable sharing though. Went through something last year. Around May last year, I discovered that someone I was dating who he had actually asked me to marry him. So I told him I needed some time to think about it. And the day when I was going to say yes is the day I found out that he was cheating.
Wow.
So I had a function at home, a family get together, and my mom came and we were taking pictures, and my phone was the battery was low. So I asked him if I could borrow his phone. At that point in time, he was in the kitchen. He was washing wares because he's showing how helpful he could be. So he washing wares and the phone was on the counter. So I was like, hey, I just need to borrow your phone real quick to take a picture of my mom. And he just looked at me. He said nothing. He just stared at me. I picked up the phone and then I took the pictures and I was gonna send it to myself to send it to mommy. And when I went into the gallery, I saw a whole set of pictures of other girls, and one girl in particular was even sending pictures to him while he was at my home that same day.
Oh gosh.
So I was asking him, what is all of this about? And I was so upset because this is this guy who he had shown that, like he was so interested in me and, he's not studying anybody else and I'm the one he wants. And then he was entertaining people. So I was so confused because
Yeah.
his actions and what I saw was two different things. So I think I probably went in a state of confusion because I didn't know what was real and what wasn't for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I even had to go counseling to get over the relationship because I stopped speaking to him that day, but then he would have tried to explain and whatever, but the
Yeah.
trust never really came back. And then when he realized I wasn't going back to the person that I was to him before, he got angry and then his treatment of me changed. So he actually became very cruel and callous because now it's like, what's the point in pretending?
Yes.
So he was now showing me who he was, and then even that gave me more heartache because now I would have banged so many emotions on the person I thought that he was, and now he's this other person. So I had to deal with that, and eventually I had to break it off.
Yeah.
But
Listen.
it took me about 4 months.
Yeah. It as tough as that is. That situation is. It is better that it ended before you all got married. It is as to go through the 4 months and all of that. It's heartbreaking to find out in that way, but better before marriage. And I believe, I don't know if you have a relationship with God, what type of relationship you have with God, but I believe you might think it was just coincidence to pick up the phone on that day. But I believe that was God leading you and leading your life, right? Because if you thought getting over him before you were married, getting over that situation was difficult before in marriage, think about if you had married him, the implications. Nobody wants to get married and then get divorced, so I think that was God showing you and guiding you and leading you, to get to the truth. And it's a lesson. Thank you so much for sharing it. I really appreciate that. Even for the ladies who might be on the call who are not married, that phone thing and sending pictures. I don't know. There's some young ladies actually who they will not make a fuss about that, right? If the person is not if the person says to them, I've had a situation with counseling someone where the person said, well, he's not with any of them, it's just pictures or whatever. And I'm like, what madness is that? Why would I be okay with my boyfriend, with women sending my boyfriend pictures of themselves, especially if it's in a provocative pose or dressed, in a provocative way? And sorry, in any way, but um I hope that you are over it now, and I hope that you're able to allow somebody else in your life and not think that all other men will be like that. So I hope you're able to open your heart again to receive love, and I hope God leads you to somebody who's willing to love you like you should be loved, right? And thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure it took a lot of courage to, you know, to open up and share. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anybody else before we close would like to share? When the outside woman maintaining anybody else would like to share anything? Unmute your mic and share. If not, yeah, so ladies, I wanna beg everybody who's on to come back next week, because next week is really going to help you in every area of your life to understand love, the difference between the different types of love, and the type of love that is required of you as a wife, and even as in a relationship, if you're courting in a courting relationship, right? So next week is going to be very, very interesting. So please come back next week and invite someone. Thank you very much for being a part tonight. It was nice having you all and hearing all of you share. Yeah, look forward to next week. So you all have a good night. God bless, ladies.